This is Out Loud and Laughing.
Hi, John.
Hey, Brian, what's going on?
What is going on? Well, we are in AOL right now, I guess.
Is this AOL world? Is this what it's like? That dial up was ridiculous. Is that what it used to be like?
Seriously. How are you
Huh.
today?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. It's been a great week and Pride is amongst us still. We're just wrapping it up in the month of June that it is right now. And, I'm feeling really good today. How about you? Checking in.
Checking in. Thanks for checking in, John. I really appreciate that.
It's important.
It is important. I'm good. I Today is Piper's 11th birthday.
Piper, your little Frenchie.
She
Happy
turned
birthday, Pipe.
11 today, which I know for you, because you lost Brody. But
Yeah.
Piper is 11, and I looked up in the system. So apparently I learned today that, because I think we were raised dog ages are 7 years human,
Yep.
but it's different by breed. So there are dog calculators out there to help you put in the age of your dog and the breed to
Interesting.
actually get the actual thing. So Piper being 11 years old is actually 70, not
Girl,
77.
she looks good though.
She looks good.
Yeah, Brody was of the 55 heart attack variety. You know what I mean? Lived hard and fast.
Listen, we lose a lot of people that way.
We do. We do. Heart health is important. No, I'm just kidding. That's not how he went. No, but in all honesty, I celebrate all journeys and thank you very much for being mindful of Brody, but let's celebrate Piper today. Happy 11th birthday, Pipe.
Happy 11th birthday. She is definitely acting 11. She's
Which
in her
is
bed sleeping,
what? Oh,
just sleeping in her bed. She had like two or three extra treats this morning. She loves carrots for anyone listening. And so we actually had big carrots in the fridge. Usually we just do baby carrot. So I peeled a whole carrot, cut it in half, and she got both pieces. And she just put it in her mouth like a bone, ran to the other room, and just noshed on it. And I'm like, she's happy.
I was just gonna say that's like the bone version for vegan dogs.
Yeah. The bone version for vegan dogs. Well, as we celebrate Piper, it also helps me reflect on, know, when we were kids and when we were turning 11, 12, 13, and sitting in AOL, because some people listening may not realize internet wasn't so easy.
Tell them all about dial up, Brian.
Whoa, dial up. Okay, so for anyone that was born anytime after 2000, you're welcome
Welcome.
because we took the brunt of it. We had to use our phone connection. And by the way, we had our phones hung up in our house. If someone was on the phone, you couldn't use the phone. It was one person per call. It was what it was. So we actually would dial into the internet from our phone line, which means you couldn't use the phone because you were on the internet. And we paid for the internet, I think, by the minute at that point. So like you got like a certain amount of minutes for the month. And at the time, that was expensive. It was like $30 a month or something, and you were able to do like 6 hours, something like that. And it was hard.
Well, that was shared amongst the family.
Yes, it was shared.
And if you ever ventured into the chat rooms, that's where a lot of the time was wasted.
Well, and you bring up a really good point. So the chat rooms and we never talked about this, I don't think, but like that was my way of like getting in touch with my gay side.
Now that you bring that up, I never really associated the two, but it was a really therapeutic and closeted way, looking back, a protective, safe way to lean into, discover these sort of new feelings. I agree. That's a great point.
Well, they had M to M chat rooms, so like male for male.
You've got
And
mail.
like, honey, if you survive M to M chat room, like you can survive anything because there were the original catfish, the original like stalkers, all of that. And I was just happy because I was just talking to other men that like met.
ASL.
ASL. Yep.
That was
age,
the
sex, location.
age, sex, location, because nothing was geolocated back then. It was just a petri dish of people from around the world, really, the country.
It felt so innocent because age, sex, location was like, your age, gender, and location. Now it's like position, cut, uncut. Girl, it has turned into a laundry list.
Open, not open. Yeah,
All
the
of
whole,
it, you know?
yeah,
Living
no,
living your best.
no fat, no femme, no Asian. Like, come on, y'all. I mean, it's a
John, is that
thing.
on isn't that on your profile?
Shut up.
No, but I have a really fun story
Tell
about
me.
being in the chat rooms. So I love going into men to men chat, men to men, men for yeah, men to men.
Men to men.
Where
Let's save the male for male because that's gonna come out a little bit later.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so it was a chat room that was it was men who wanted to talk to men. And so what I would go there and just chat with people. Like it wasn't even like super, super sexual. But if you met somebody you liked, you could start into messaging them separately and like having conversations. And I remember I was talking to this one person. And I was talking to this one person for quite a while, actually. And I don't know if this is true. And we will tag this person to see if it might be true. But I remember going into this chat room and talking to this person who was closeted, but he said he was on tour. And I was just like, okay, this is weird. But this was like, again, 1998, 1999. We were freshmen and sophomores. And to this day, I think I have the whole entire conversation printed in like probably my parents' garage, but I'm pretty sure I talked to Lance Bass,
I mean, that's not far off.
right? So we will definitely tag Lance Bass because I want to know if he ever joined an M to M chat room when he was on tour and insane. But I mean, he was closeted as well, so I don't see why he wouldn't have. That was his outlet as well because he was in the spotlight. He couldn't like be his true authentic self. I remember having a conversation about him and like both our struggles of like coming out and being who we are and stuff. And so even if it was just again being catfished by someone who claimed to be Lance Bass, it was a good conversation for me back when I was in high school. So I don't know. Shout out to Lance Bass for helping me get through my early teen years.
Shout out to NSYNC and Lance Bass. Thank you very much, fake or real Lance Bass.
Right. AOL for the win. What
For,
do you have any stories?
you think I'm just gonna let you tell your story? That's cute. Um, yeah, I have a lot of stories. I was really bad
File's done.
online.
Oh.
I think this tracks for who we are as people. Um, you're like the angel on the shoulder, and for some reason, I don't know why. I've always thought I was an angel on the shoulder, but I think I'm the devil on the shoulder.
You look better in red anyways. It's fine.
I really do. My complexion is just so olive. Um, but yeah, I used the internet and well, I used the internet for a lot of things. Mail to mail chat was, let's just say, the foreplay before the real stuff started. Um, I spoke with a lot of people online, and one of them was this guy who claimed to be 21. He had his pictures were probably out of an Abercrombie and Fitch catalog, but we were too poor, cheap, and hadn't really been exposed to that yet. So I think I was catfished too. But I spoke to this guy for like 2 years. Like I said, he lived in Key West, and we had tried to make plans to get together, but every time they would fall through in true catfish fashion. And I still to this day sometimes wonder like what happened to that guy, fake or real.
Yeah.
Just because when you create these like relationships, be them online or in real life, we do create these stories in our heads and like these expectations. And so I just had this thought that maybe this guy could be something. And when that something goes away, like it does leave a little hole in your heart, be it real or fake. So I do think about him every once in a while. But yeah, I do have stories. None other are really coming to mind, but I was in the mail to mail chat rooms all the time. All the time.
Yeah. I think like it was definitely an outlet. I mean, shout out to our parents for raising decent children because that
True.
we could have gotten into trouble with this stuff. And I think I at least had our angel on our shoulder telling us, there's only so much we should do. Because there's a lot we could do. And since the internet was so new, I'm not sure they truly understood what we were doing all the
You've
time,
got pictures.
you know, waiting for that picture to load. And then you saw a
Uh,
peck and you're like,
nipple,
um, yeah, and you're like,
nipple.
"Ooh, okay, this is great.
Let's keep going down the image. Belly button, tops of
Yeah.
pubes. Like it
And
just took
then,
5 minutes.
and then your time was up, so you couldn't finish it because the internet broke out because your monthly
Or
minutes were over.
or your parents were walking into the room and you had to stop the download. So you got half
Yeah.
a photo.
Yeah, but I mean, there was also a lot of good because I remember going into chat room. They weren't just male to male. I went to a couple of other ones. There might have been like some Fort Lauderdale ones or something at one point. I remember talking to this girl for a while, not like sexually or anything, but her and I ended up becoming friends because she was going to Plantation High School the same year I was going to go to Plantation High School. So I knew Stephanie Mark before even starting high school. Her
Hey,
and I
shout
met.
out.
Yeah, she was like, I'm a cheerleader. I already know people there. I'll help you. And I remember we had a class together. And the very first day I knew it was her. But we talked about this already. Like I was new to this whole experience. And I sat there and I knew her. And she looked at me and she didn't say anything either because it was that probably that stress of like, I'm going to talk to the nerd. And I was like, I'm not going to talk to the popular cheerleader. But we ended up becoming friends later on, obviously. But yeah, I knew her because of the chat rooms and we met. So it's a small world, but in a very weird way.
Absolutely. And that's so classic Stephanie Mark to lean out a helping hand and try to get her hands on everybody. No, I'm kidding. I love Stephanie Mark. We're still dear friends on Facebook. She actually lives not too far from me, so
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there was all of that, and then I think it was just the internet was just so new. We started doing homework off the internet with researching because before that, you and I were going to a library and renting out books and making copies. Like there was just so much good that came from it, but I also think it helped me find me in a weird way, right? Because it was a way to like finally take my thoughts and bring it to a room where historically you didn't really talk about it with your friends. You didn't talk about it with your parents. We didn't really talk about it with each other. So this was a way of like, it was my 13-year-old therapy in a way, right?
And then we grew up and things,
And then,
and then the internet just kept growing. I agree though. It was a lot of those things for me. And it continued to be, and it continues to be a point of connection, especially post separation and on my journey towards like, integrating and meeting more people. Sure, I go out into the real world and sure, like I do the things, but there's some thing about talking to somebody, be it online or otherwise. And I think it's really interesting that that has stuck around, even from back then, that like people are still chatting on different versions of this. And so I think it would be really interesting to sort of expand on like what happened past the chat rooms, what happened past, AOL,
Goodbye.
right? Like you used to have to buy one browser. Imagine today paying for Chrome or paying specifically for Safari. We now have like this open access to everything. And so it's just amazing how things grown, how the internet has grown, but also interesting how some of our human patterns haven't changed.
yeah, I agree. I also wonder like how much it opened in Pandora's box of like stress. Because if you think about it, and again, this is funny, but also not like the stress of putting your away message up. Do you remember that?
Well, there was
Like
let's tell everybody because there was the chat rooms and then there was the instant messaging.
AIM. AIM,
Yeah.
yeah. AOL Instant Messenger. And so that's when you had all your friends, names. You're able to click on it and chat with them. So it was like real time texting, messaging. And that's when you met people in rooms, thought them your friends and talked to them, which was great, right? It was our way of chatting on the phone, but not. But if you got up for a while to like go to dinner or you're like a shower or do something, you're able to put up an away message so people knew you were away. But it wasn't just saying, hey, I'll be right back. I'm having dinner. Like you had to put thought into it. Like, am I using a quote from one of my favorite songs right now? Like No Scrubs from TLC. Like, am I going to put up a really famous quote? Am I just going to use all the different keystrokes on my computer to make a heart? Right? Like it was stressful because you felt like that message, when people read it, they would feel something, right?
It was the first iteration of like personalizing yourself online to some degree outside of like your screen name, for example, but
Which we should
also
talk about, by the way. We should talk
we
about screen names too.
definitely should talk about screen names. But I think what's crazy is like, like I remember I used to style my away messages, like the font, the color, and stuff like that. It was the original MySpace.
It
It
was
was,
it was, yes.
you know, but screen names. I want to go back to screen names.
What was your screen name?
I had a few.
Oh, one.
Well,
Only one.
I had aliases.
Oh, I need to know this because I literally only had one all the way through beginning of college, like the same one.
All right, so here are mine, and then give me your one, which I already know what yours is. But anyway,
You
uh,
do.
uh, I think I had like Latino 84 was one of mine, but it was
Oh,
Lateen, like a teenager. You know,
that rings different today. If I saw that screen name,
I agree. Uh, I'd be iced out of chat rooms.
yeah,
Uh,
iced out of everything.
you see what I did there.
Mhm.
Another one was like Hollister. So, because I found that the Latino wasn't really working for me, so the pendulum swung very much so to the white. Um,
Yep, I remember the Hollister one. I think.
yeah, and then the last one and my primary one was the Dave Matthews Band 1102 without any of the vowels,
Yes, and
which I could,
that was long lasting.
that was long lasting. I could also still recite it like a memory off the top of my head because it was no vowels. So, like,
Yep.
how many words do you know how to spell with no vowels, let alone three words in succession? So, you ready for it? Can I just do it before you give me yours? DVMTHWSBND1102. That's literally Dave Matthews Bands with no vowels. You're welcome, everybody. The more you know, shooting star.
Special skill to add to LinkedIn.
Yeah. All right. What was your one?
Well, you know my one. So my profile was Speedy4946, which is interesting because no one wants to be Speedy.
I was just gonna say these days that might ring a little different too.
Yeah, that one's a little one note very quick. But the backstory was, and John, you could attest to this, there was no direction on how to pick a screen name. Like there was no like we weren't told like, well, maybe the five things you should think about before you double down on this. Because no one really kind of knew that this was going to be your persona. Like people didn't realize like how big having a screen name was. Which is probably why you went through a bunch like you're kind of like the Madonna, Taylor Swift going through your eras where I'm like the Cher, I was just constant. Like I didn't really evolve too much, which no judgment on either. But I mean definitely a little judgment on.
Trust me. You judging my screen names today is not what's gonna bring me down.
Um, but I remember sitting down as a family because my dad was at the computer and we were all picking our screen name. And we were of the era where I was at 13, 14, right? So we weren't mature. We were cartoons still. Like we were Nick and Night, Nick, whatever it all was. So I was just going down the rabbit hole of like Looney Tune characters. And I was like, oh, I'm a Tasmanian devil. And they were like, that one's taken already. Because again, just so everyone knows, John and I were poor. So by the time we got AOL, it might have been around for like 6 months to a year already. And so I couldn't get Tasmanian Devil. So I guess I thought about the Roadrunner who was Speedy and just went with that. And then AOL picked up some numbers. And so, yeah, Speedy 4946. But I was just like, okay, that's my screen name. And I just kept it. Although in college, I got creative and I made it Gator Absolute because I went to University of Florida and Absolute Vodka. So it was Gator Gator Absolute with no E at the end. Now that I kept all the way into like post college because who doesn't understand Gator Absolute? My persona was in that screen name at the time, you know?
I think it's funny to see that etymology. And I just the etymology of screen names, the etymology of the internet, the etymology of where we are today and sort of what it's
Yeah,
become. So, even it went from AOL to Atom for chat. It went to Grinder and Tinder and Match and all these other things. And it's just amazing that we're still all
it
talking
is.
to each other online.
We've all come together online. We are still connecting that way. Obviously, it's gotten a little more robust and we kind of lean into it. It used to be more of a shtick for us, and now it's just a way of life. So I don't know. It was funny when I memory lane on this one because, I don't know. It was a long time ago.
And this podcast, but I will see you later. I gotta run.
I love you. Bye.
I love you. This was Out Loud and Laughing. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We're available everywhere you get your podcasts: Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or wherever.